Wednesday, or had a great Wednesday whenever you're watching this. Earlier today I told you I was going to do another video for you, and here I am doing another one. This time I'm going to read more from the book Real Life Ghost Stories, but it's kind of hard to whisper what I'm reading, so I'm going to have to just talk with a low voice. It's easier than whispering, and you might be able to make all the words better anyway. So we're reading about the Perron family haunting, the ghost story that inspired horror stories, by Ebony Joy Wilkins. Introduction. Horror in Harrisville. During the winter of 1970, Roger and Carolyn Perron wanted to find a home with more space for their 5 daughters, Andrea, Nancy, Christine, Cindy, and April. A farmhouse in rural Harrisville, Rhode Island, seemed to be the answer. The 200-acre property was known as the Old Arnold Estate. The farmhouse had 14 rooms, a spacious porch, and plenty of room outdoors for the girls to play. But the family quickly realized that something wasn't right about their dream home. According to the family, they soon began to experience paranormal activity. Their story would eventually inspire the popular horror movie, The Conjuring. To this day, people debate whether or not the hauntings in the Perron family home were real. Many people believe the family's account of paranormal activity, but skeptics believe that the family made up or exaggerated their stories in an attempt to make money and get attention from the media. Turn the page and decide for yourself. And it just shows a picture of sorry about that. Conjuring. Okay. Chapter 1. The haunting begins. It didn't take long for the parents to determine they are not alone in their new home. When they moved in, the previous owner had a warning for them. For the sake of your family, leave the lights on at night. But the parents didn't understand the warning at first. They unpacked their belongings, arranged the furniture, and explored their surroundings. As they did, strange noises, smells, and events allegedly began to occur. Moving toys. Cindy and the other Perron girls began to notice their toys were often left out of place. Cindy would set up whole villages of small toy figures. She would leave the room and soon come back to find the toys missing or rearranged. Sometimes the girls' toys would end up in the barn or in other areas around the Perron's property. The sisters argued with one another about the missing and moved toys, but every time the other girls would deny that they'd moved anything. These strange events sometimes occurred when Cindy was alone in the house. She believed that someone besides her sisters must have moved her toys. Since she couldn't get rid of whoever was moving her toys, Cindy began to share them with the ghosts. Carolyn Perron and her 5 daughters on the steps of the family's Harrisville farmhouse. There's a picture. Surrounded by spirits. More unexplained phenomena began to occur. Doors allegedly slammed closed or proved impossible to open. Carolyn's broom went missing. It showed up in strange places without explanation. The Perron family often heard the sound of a broom sweeping. They found piles of dirt that appeared to have been swept up but no one in the family claimed to have done the chore. The family said that their clocks would stop at exactly 5:15 a.m. each morning. They said they often smelled something like rotten flesh wafting through their home. Old Arnold Estate. The Old Arnold Estate had been the home of 8 different generations of the Arnold family. Some neighbors said that many of the residents had lived and died in the home, and their spirits had stayed behind. Carolyn would eventually research the history of the home to confirm there had been many deaths on the property. The family believed this was the cause of the haunting they experienced. Skeptic's Note. The Old Arnold Estate was built in 1736. The noises heard around the house could be explained by the old structure of the home. At night, the family heard strange noises. They claimed to hear voices coming from the walls. According to the family, they also spotted several ghosts. One was a little boy who wandered through the house. There was also a little girl who played with the daughter's toys. Sometimes they saw a woman wearing a gray dress. Her neck bent at an odd angle, as though her neck was broken. The events were strange, but not strange enough to trouble the parents too much. The spirits didn't seem angry. In fact, they seemed almost kind at times. During the first 2 months of their stay at the house, Cindy reported that a ghost would tuck her into bed and kiss her goodnight. She said she knew it wasn't her mother because the ghost smelled differently, but this loving behavior would soon change into something much more sinister. Fact. During the 1970s, the United States economy experienced a recession. The Perron family said that money troubles were the main reason they could not leave their rural Rhode Island farmhouse. Chapter 2. Living with the Dead. According to the Perron family, the atmosphere of the home soon shifted. The ghosts seemed to be less kind and welcoming than before. The parents felt like they were constantly being watched. Few people believed the parents. However, even Roger had a hard time believing that these were spirits in the house. But the spirits were determined to make their presence known. Hide and seek. It was a hot day in August, about 6 months after the family moved in. The girls decided to play their favorite game, hide and seek. The sprawling farmhouse and surrounding property were perfect for it. Cindy found a hiding spot in the woodshed. She climbed into a large wooden box and pulled the lid closed. She held a hand over her mouth to keep from giggling. After waiting for a while, Cindy figured her sisters were not going to find her. She tried to push at the top of the box to get out. It didn't budge. The dark, tiny space began to overwhelm Cindy. She started to panic. Cindy pushed harder and began to pound at the lid. Later, she said it felt like someone was sitting on top of it, like someone was holding the lid closed. It was getting very hot inside. She began to feel like she was running out of air. Cindy screamed for help, but no one responded. Finally, after 20 minutes, Nancy found her and pulled open the box. According to the girls, they found no latches or locks on the box. The girls never discovered what it was that kept Cindy from escaping. They believe this was just one example of paranormal activity occurring in their new home. Evil spirits. The paranormal activity began to get fiercer. Furniture allegedly levitated off the ground. The family said it sometimes slid straight across rooms. The girls' bed shook violently as they slept. According to the daughters, one spirit pulled at the girls' limbs and hair while they slept. Another spirit allegedly lifted their beds and moved them around the room. Yet another ghost is said to have hidden the corner of the girls' rooms. He stared at them with a terrifying grin as they played and slept. Skeptic's note. Levitating furniture is often said to be a sign of presence of spirits. However, skeptics believe that this phenomenon could be explained by people hallucinating or imagining things that aren't there. The parents only have their own claims to back up these experiences. There is no proof that their furniture levitated. Cindy claimed that one of the ghosts whispered into her ears at night. The spirit told her that 7 dead soldiers were hidden in the walls of the house. She began to have awful nightmares. Whenever the girls would yell for help, their parents couldn't hear them. According to Andrea, the house would somehow muffle their screams and cries. As the spirits became physically aggressive, Roger said Carolyn knew they needed help. The family started to become scared for their safety. They now understood the previous owner's warning, leave the lights on at night. But even a well-lit home didn't seem to stop their difficult guests. The woman in the gray dress. The ghostly woman wearing a gray dress is said to have made Carolyn her main target. One morning, she showed up in Carolyn's bedroom. She told Carolyn, get out, I'll drive you out with death and gloom." Carolyn claimed to often feel the presence of a spirit nearby. She began to feel pinches on her skin. Over time, the attacks became more dangerous. Carolyn said that the ghost would find her when she was alone. She threw items at Carolyn until dark bruises and red marks appeared on her skin. It was clear to the family that the ghost didn't want the parent family matriarch around much longer. Chapter 3. Bathsheba. The parent family believes that the ghost in the gray dress became angry when it was clear that they weren't going to flee the home. The ghost's actions were harsher and happened more and more frequently. She continued to haunt her favorite target in the parent family, Carolyn. The hauntings worsened. The ghost apparently found Carolyn nesting on the couch one evening. Carolyn felt a pain in her leg. She could also feel blood. She moved the blanket from her lap. The blood was coming from a single puncture wound on the side of her leg. Sometime during her nap, Carolyn believed she had been stabbed with something. The wound appeared to be the exact shape and size of a knitting needle. The family believed this was a sign that the ghost wanted Carolyn gone. Fact. The oldest daughter, Andrea Perrin, has written 3 books about her family's experiences living with spirits. The books are titled House of Darkness, House of Light, Volumes 1 to 3. Help arrives. Word traveled about the reported hauntings at the parents' home. Lorraine and Ed Warren, a husband and wife team who were paranormal investigators, heard about the hauntings at the old Arnold estate. Lorraine and Ed Warren had founded the New England Society for Psychic Research. Ed studied demons, while Lorraine claimed to be able to communicate with demons and other evil spirits. The Warrens went to the parent home to help the young family figure out what was going on. Carolyn was relieved to have help. Many hadn't believed her claims of haunting, but the Warrens did. According to Andrea, when Lorraine walked into the parent house, she immediately told them, "I feel a dark presence, and her name is Bathsheba." The Warrens agreed with Carolyn that her house was haunted by evil spirits. They believed Bathsheba was a witch. Legend says she murdered her child and then took her own life. The Warrens also believe that their had been many other terrible events that occurred on the Perrin property, including unexplained accidents and deaths. Over the course of their careers, Lorraine and Ed Warren claimed they took on more than 10,000 paranormal investigations. Skeptics note, many don't agree with the legend of Bathsheba. Historical records show that a woman by the name of Bathsheba Thayer Sherman lived on the property in the late 1800s. While she was originally charged with an infant's death, the charges were eventually dropped. Skeptics point to historical records that suggest Bathsheba was a respectable wife and mother. She cared for her children and the children of her neighbors. They believed the baby in her care could have simply died of natural causes or an accident. And this is a picture of Ed and Lorraine Warren. Okay. Let's see. Desperate to help the young family, the Warrens attempted to cleanse the home. They organized a seance to try to communicate with Bathsheba. Cindy and Andrea hid nearby to watch. The girls claimed to see their mother speak in a language they had never heard. They also said that Bathsheba lifted their mother in a chair and flung Carolyn's body across the room. The girls were terrified. They believed their mother had been possessed by Bathsheba. In this image from 1986, Richard Bush from the Committee for Scientific Investigation of Claims of the Paranormal confronts Ed and Lorraine Warren. Fact: the Warrens were criticized by many over the course of their careers. In 1997, the New England Skeptical Society investigated the husband and wife team. They gave an interview on their findings in the Connecticut Post. NESS claimed that the Warrens produced little, if any, scientific proof of the hauntings they investigated. Okay, so that's another picture for you to look at. The Amityville haunting. The Warrens were also famous for investigating the Amityville haunting. This haunting was the basis for the book The Amityville Horror by JNice. Several films were also made based on the events in Amityville. Today, people remain divided over whether or not the haunting was a hoax. The haunting began in 1975. George and Kathy Lutz moved into the home at 112 Ocean Avenue on Long Island in New York. The home had been the scene of several murders just over a year before, soon after the Lutz family arrived. The family claimed to notice strange sounds and smells and experienced frightening events. They left the home less than a month after moving in. Chapter 4: Nightmare Over. Ultimately, the parents believed that the Warrens' attempts to help only made matters worse. Carolyn became weak and tired. She seemed to age quickly and was not acting like herself. The seance had been so out of control that Roger asked the Warrens to leave the home. But even after the Warrens left, the parents claimed that the spirits remained. The family stayed in touch with the Warrens over the years, but they never were able to rid the family of Bathsheba's curse. The parents simply tried their best not to disturb Bathsheba and the other spirits until they could afford to leave Harrisville. Fact: Roger Perrin was often gone while the Perrins lived at the old Arnold estate. He often traveled away from the home for work. He was rarely the target of any of the spirits in the house. He remained skeptical for a long time about what Carolyn and the daughters experienced. Roger and Caroline Perrin at the family home, the 5 Perrin daughters in front of the Harrisville home. So there's another picture. Oh, 2 pictures for you. After the move. After 10 years of living with evil spirits, the Perrin family had had enough. In June 1980, they sold the property and moved to Georgia. The farmhouse had other owners after the Perrins moved on. According to Andrea, many claimed to experience paranormal activity on the property. The man who moved in began the restoration on the house when he sold it. When we sold it, left screaming without his car, without the tools, without his clothing, Andrea said in an interview. He never went back to the house, and it sat vacant for years. With their move, the family hoped they were leaving the spirits behind, but Andrea later wrote about the spirits that apparently followed them to their new home. She claims that to this day, the Perrins are haunted by Bathsheba's curse. The house never left us. Even though we left the house, it never left us, and it never will, Andrea said. Let's see. The Conjuring. The Conjuring is a horror movie inspired by the Perrin family's experiences. The film was shot in North Carolina and directed by James Wan. Lorraine Warren gave the filmmaker advice on the project. Similar to real life, the movie shows the Warrens helping the Perrins rid their home of evil spirits. The Warrens bring in a team of paranormal investigators. Bathsheba is angered at their presence. She possesses Carolyn's body, just as the Perrins believe it occurred in real life. However, to the film, Bathsheba attempts to get Carolyn to hurt one of her children, as she had done. There are no reports that Carolyn was tempted to hurt one of their daughters in real life. Lily Taylor played Carolyn Perrin, and Joey King played Christine in the movie The Conjuring. The entire family was invited to set during the filming of The Conjuring. Carolyn decided not to go at the last minute. While the daughters were giving an interview on the set, a wild wind is said to have torn through the area. Later, the Perrin daughters received bad news. They learned that Carolyn had fallen and broken her hip at the same time of this strange event. Andrea believes that this is a sign from Bathsheba. The ghost was still haunting them and warning them not to dig up the past. Life with evil spirits was not what the parents had experienced when they moved into their dream farmhouse. To this day, there is so much debate over whether or not the haunting in the Harrisville was a hoax. But whether these ghosts were real or imagined, the Perrin family had to learn to live with them for the rest of their lives. Fact. Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson played Lorraine and Ed Warren in The Conjuring. The actors spent several days learning from the real-life Lorraine Warren before they filmed. Farmiga and Wilson also starred in The Conjuring 2. The sequel is based on the Enfield haunting, in which a family in England was victim to a poltergeist haunting. Skeptics note, aside from their own claims, there is no proof that the Perrin family experienced paranormal activity. A recent resident of the home, Norma Sutcliffe, believes they made it all up. The real-life Perrin sisters pose on the set of The Conjuring with the actresses who play them in their movie. on the bottom. Okay, well that'll be it for today. I'll do the next one another time. So until the next video, everybody, I hope I didn't scare you too much. Take care and bye for now.